Thanks to a week where I was the chaplain at the Presbyterian House up at the Chautauqua Institute, I feel recharged. I feel more than recharged. I feel on fire. I have a new favorite preacher, the Reverend Dr. Zena Jacques. She is one of, if not the best preachers I have ever worshiped with. And yes, that's including people like Nadia Boltz-Weber, Moses Oss, Diana Butler-Bass, Will Willimon, Barbara Bound-Taylor, Thomas Long. The list could go on and on. And I got to bask in God's glory for an entire week. I even got to shake her hand. And the next time I went behind the stage to greet, they have a meet and greet, I got to give her a hug. I even got to share with her a little bit of the vision that Session has discerned. And she works with many young women who are studying to be pastors. And if I have anything to do with it, she will be in this pulpit someday. Whether it's as a guest or as a consultant, I don't know. But this woman of God has it. So full disclosure, this entire message is highly shaped by her messages throughout the week. There was Monopoly, there was Charades, there was Jenga. She stacked them right here, knocked them down, and then put them all back together in the midst of a sermon. It was transformative. And when she did the Charades message, after which this is obviously titled, she gave everyone a homework assignment. And so I'm going to give you a homework assignment to complete before the end of this message. It's very simple. Don't look at anyone else's answers. Write it on your bulletin, on your iPhone, your smartphone, whatever you want. But two things, two practices, two behaviors that you think the spiritual leaders of Calvin should be doing every day. You got that? Two actions, two behaviors that you think the spiritual leaders of Calvin should be doing each and every day. We'll come back around to it at the end of the message. Now, you all know the game of charades, right? What does this mean? Okay, what does this mean? A book, okay? So it's a movie title or a book title. And I wonder what in the world they would do for streaming. Maybe looking at your phone going like this? Okay? Or what about a podcast? Maybe holding your phone and holding something in your ear to listen to the podcast, right? And then you go down to how many words there are in the title, right? So 6 words, okay? 5th word, okay? 1 syllable. Right? So the first number you put up is however many words there are in the title. And the second time you put up, that's the first word you're going to start with. Okay? And then when you hit your arm, that's how many syllables or syllables, I always like to say, so I can actually spell it. How many syllables are in the word. So we're going to try this. Okay? You ready? Okay, so I'm failing horribly at this. Who has been on my Facebook page before I went on vacation? On Friday night, I went to go see something. Okay, chalice or a holy grail. Monty Python and the Holy Grail. You got it, and I had to cheat. Well done. Charades causes us to change our behavior. It causes us to not use words. It causes us to think in ways that we don't normally think and act in ways that we don't normally act. And when I think of the game of charades, when I think of Matthew 11, when I think of God's call to us, I really think that one of the single most important foundational aspects of Christianity, of our lives in this world today, actions speak louder than words. Our actions speak louder than our words. What do our actions as Christianity say to this world? Are we winning at the game of charades? As Christians, brothers and sisters, with all the churches on this street and in this town, are we winning at the game of charades? I see you shaking your head no. And I can feel it in your demeanor. Our gestures, our postures, our bodies, how we spend our time, who our friends are, how we spend our money, how and with whom we communicate. The bumper stickers that we have on our cars are all actions, behaviors that tell the world who we are and whose we are. And the whole world is watching. I'm not talking about the Crusades. I'm not talking about the Inquisition. I'm not even talking about slavery or the Holocaust. I'm talking about today. How are we doing today? I knew I liked Zena when she held up this book. It's called Oneness: Great Principles Shared by All Religions by Jeffrey Moses. How are we doing at the game of charades when it comes to the golden rule? Do unto others, right? It's in all of the world's major religions. How are we doing at doing unto others as we would have them do unto you? Or how are we doing at it is more blessed to give than to receive? We gave 150 bikes to our friends at Pine Ridge. How are we doing as Christians, as all of the churches here yoked together at more blessed to give than receive? How are we doing at that basic, foundational, indigenous, and in all of the world's religions ethic of care for the earth? How are we doing at honor your mother and your father? Listen, I know my parents are going to be okay. I'm pretty confident your parents are going to be okay. Did you know that 1 in 7 seniors are food insecure? Did you know that most people don't know where they're going to go and how they're going to get there when their bodies start to give out on them? We are in the minority. What do our actions, what do our behaviors say? How about love your enemies? Do we love our brothers and sisters who are Christians also? Pew Research recently came out within the last 6 months that says that Republicans and Democrats want to defeat each other. They used to want to win. Now we want to defeat each other. Now we want to wipe them off of the face of the earth. How is that loving your enemies? As an athlete, I have a real clear picture in my mind that my biggest rival, I want them to be as good as they humanly possibly can be, because that means we have to be that much better. Are we praying for those who persecute us? Are we winning at the game of charades? Now, I want to ask you to do something that Zena asked us to do. She said, I want you to roll back the clock 48 hours. And what were your behaviors and your actions 48 hours ago from there until then? And she said, well, but this is Chautauqua, and this is a bubble, and this is different. I'm sorry. This is Calvin. This is a bubble. This is different. What are our behaviors from 48 hours ago until when you walked in the door this morning? What do they speak? What do they communicate? Did we share love? Now, not necessarily because I want to give you a little sample of my new favorite preacher, but because she makes the point better than I ever could. I have a clip, a 2-minute clip of her preaching, and I want you to experience it.
I got married and got a package deal. I've never had children except they were 7 and 10 when I got them, and they're now 44 and 47. So the eldest was a daughter. And she came to live with her dad and I within the first year of our marriage, and she was an angry, angry child. I'd robbed her of her father. I'd taken him 2,000 miles west, and she was angry. And now this child was living in my house, and I tried to think of something that I would do that she and her mom did not do, and so we decided to have a cup of tea every night. I still have the tray where I would prepare a beautiful tray of tea and maybe a Madeleine or something and walk into her room, and I wouldn't leave until she finished her tea. That child is lucky to have an esophagus because she drank hot tea so quickly, so many nights to get me out of her room. Her son is now 28, but when that boy was 4, they allowed him to stay with my husband and me for the first time. His name is Devon. And I was getting ready to tuck him into bed, and he looked at me and he said, Grandma Z, we're not going to have our tea? That child, his mother, who struggled with this other woman in her, we are now good, by the way, who struggled with this other woman in her life, this child who I made drink tea with me every night because I had no words. I had no explanation for why her family had imploded. I had no explanation for why her father now loved me. I had no explanation. I had no balm or healing for her heart. But what I knew is that I needed her to know that I loved her and that she was in my heart. And so this act of tea just seemed to be the civil thing to do. And now, a generation later, whenever we are together, we end the day with tea. Your actions speak louder than your words. There was nothing I could say to that child. There was nothing I could communicate, but I could show.
What are we communicating? What are we showing? What do your friends say your views are on diversity? What does how we spend our money say about our values as a church, let alone as individuals? What does it say? What does how we spend our money say about the economic circumstances in this great nation? What does it say about our care for the poor, for the vulnerable, for the least of these. What does what we at Calvin preach or pray say? Does it help you to grow and lift you up and help you become salt and light? Does it help us to receive the immigrant and to bless those who persecute us? How does Calvin fill you with love so that you can endure loving your enemies? How hard is it for us to live into that? The world is watching. And make no mistake about it, we are playing a game of charades. Every single one of us here has lost a friend of Calvin who's not coming here anymore. And maybe they are, maybe they aren't going somewhere else. What do our actions say about our love, our care, our compassion for those who we might disagree with politically, we might disagree with musically, we might disagree with in a million different ways? It doesn't matter. Every single one of the world religions talks about this. It's not just a Christian thing. The God who loves us has given us power. And that power is your story. And your story has the power to be compassionate, to care, to heal, to welcome, to embrace. And yes, to even love our enemies. To play together and relearn those basic foundational aspects of life. Friends, the world is watching. And I'm convinced now more than ever, not just in this country, but everywhere in the world, that the world needs the church. The world needs our foundational values, our foundational principles. The world needs to become more one. Yes, diverse, but one in our love and care for each other. The world needs love. What was it that Jesus said that there was no greater commandment than love? And what was his last prayer? That they all might be one. Let's play some charades. Let's show them. Amen? Amen.